Hello and welcome to your reading class. In this video, I'm going to walk you through an overview of the CELPIP reading. Here is what you need to know about the CELPIP reading. First of all, there will always be one unscored task at the beginning. It's just to get you ready. It's just a practice task and it's just one question. After that, you will have to answer 38 questions that is divided into 4 different parts. You may get some additional items on the test. These additional items doesn't count towards your score. They are just there for research and development purposes. Let me tell you a little bit about these additional items. Now, you may get 2 of one part. For example, you might get 2 reading part 3. You're done with your reading part 3 and you're expecting to move on to reading part 4. But then you see another reading part 3. One of those is the additional item. You wouldn't know which one counts towards your score and which one doesn't count towards your score. So it is very important that you give both parts equal importance. Yes, I know it can be draining, it can be tiring, like I just racked my head and I'm done with reading part 3. Gosh, I'm hoping to see reading part 4 and then another part 3 pops up. Yes, it can be a little draining, but it's okay. Please give both equal importance. It could be any of the reading parts. It could be part 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Regardless, you do not know which one counts towards your score and which one doesn't. So please answer all the questions with the same importance. You will have around 1 hour to complete the reading test, and you will be answering 38 questions that are divided into 4 sections or 4 parts. Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. The test gets difficult as it progresses. Let me break it down. Part 1 is easy. Actually, part 1 is called an email correspondence. So you're reading an email and then answering question based on that email. It's usually very easy. The content is usually very simple. Maybe a friend writing to another friend telling them about a trip, or someone is writing to a government office talking about a restriction, or someone went to a restaurant and they aren't really satisfied with the food and services, and now they're writing an email to tell their friend about it. It could be literally about any everyday to-day context. Very easy. In part 1, you have to answer 11 questions for 11 minutes. So first of all, you have 6 questions regarding the email and another 5 questions which requires you to fill in the blanks. Again, it is not difficult. It is something you can handle even without a class. In reading part 2, this is a one unique part among the reading parts because instead of a text or a passage on the left, you will get a diagram instead. But again, it's not very complicated or anything out of the ordinary. The diagram could be something from a website. It could be a food menu. It could be a school board. It could be anything about everyday today matter or everyday today context. Again, it is not very difficult, but you need a strategy in order to keep to the time and answer the questions as fast as possible. In the reading part 2, you have 8 questions for 9 minutes. So you have 8 questions for 9 minutes. The first 5 questions are fill in the blanks where you're going to answer questions using the diagram or the picture. And the last 3 questions are basic, mostly inference questions regarding the email that you've answered already. Now in part 3, part 3 is titled Reading for Information. Again, remember, it gets difficult as it progresses. Part 3 is not very easy, but it's also not extremely difficult. Test takers do struggle with part 3 because they don't have a strategy, and for some test takers, they have very limited vocabulary. Again, as it progresses, the level of vocabulary also increases. So you have to build your vocabulary. For this part, you've got 9 questions for 10 minutes, and all 9 questions are the same. You just have to figure out which paragraph contains a particular statement. And finally, part 4 is titled Reading for Viewpoints. Is it difficult? Yes. Remember, it gets difficult as it progresses. In part 4, you've got 13 minutes for 10 questions. The first 5 questions is relating to the passage on the left, and the next 5 questions is fill in the blanks. Again, one thing that makes it very difficult or very challenging for test takers is the use of difficult vocabulary. So the higher your vocabulary, the easier it is for you to answer the questions. All the questions on the reading test are in the same format, which is multiple choice in a drop-down menu. So you don't have to worry about typing or writing the wrong thing. All you are doing is clicking on A or B or C or D. Yes, you don't have to worry if you have zero knowledge about the computer. You're doing literally nothing, only clicking on your answers. So that is one beautiful thing. I think I really like that about the CELPIP reading. Every part in the reading has a next button, just like your writing. This button is there so you can click and move on to the next part before your time is up. Again, I do not recommend clicking next. The moment you click on next, you will not be able to go back to the previous parts. So even if you've got a little time left, which I really doubt, but if you've got some time left, consider using it to go over your work again. Just be sure that your answers are correct. I do say that I doubt if you're going to have a little time because the greatest enemy in the reading test is time. That is your greatest enemy. Trust me, if you've got all the time in the world, you will not struggle in the reading. But because every part is timed, test takers find it very difficult to be able to read a passage, answer the question, and stick to the time. So you really wouldn't have extra time. But if you do, I do not recommend clicking next. During your practices, you will be able to go back to the previous passage or to the previous part, but on the test, you will not be able to go back the moment you click next. Finally, you will be given note paper and pen during the tests. So you might need them during the difficult reading part, especially reading part 3 and 4. Consider taking notes. It is not compulsory, it is not mandatory, and you're not going to submit your notes for marking or for scoring. It's just to help you answer the question. It's a strategy for answering the question while sticking to the time. In order to do well in this test, there are a few skills you have to build. 1. Your vocabulary. So if you've got a few more weeks before your test, consider building a vocabulary journal today. Learn new words every day. Not just learning, use them as you speak. Build your vocabulary store so that on the test day, you come across words that you aren't very familiar with or words you haven't really seen before, you will not really struggle because you're already very familiar with figuring out the meaning of new words. You go scroll down to previous videos, you will find a video that gives several tips on how you can build your vocabulary. Consider doing that. Another skill you will need to build is your summary. Summary might seem or sound like a very easy skill. It might seem like, oh, I can summarize. I know how to do it. That shouldn't be a problem. But when you actually start preparing for this test, you will recognize how important summary is. So consider building your summary and your paraphrasing skill. Anyways, this is a brief overview of the reading test. If you've got further questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section, and I am more than excited to provide answers to you. See you in our next video, and bye.